Welcome to the AC 24/7 Top Story Countdown. We'll guide you through the biggest news of the day. Our focus, advocating our rights, advocating equality, advocating health, and advocating Earth. Here's our pick for number 4.
History on the streets of the Taiwanese capital tonight. Thousands of people are out here listening to the first words of their new president-elect, Lai Ching-te, and their vice president-elect, Xiaobi Kim. This is their first press conference after confirming that they have accepted their election win. The two opposition parties, the parties that were considered friendlier to China, both conceded earlier in the evening on Saturday. The election results came through relatively quickly, just a few hours after the polls closed here in Taiwan. This island democracy has a reputation for being very efficient when it comes to tallying the election results, partially because there are just under 24 million people living here and nobody can vote in absentee ballots. So everybody who cast their ballots, the millions of Taiwanese who voted, actually had to do so in person in their hometowns. But a lot of people turned out. There were just under 2,000 polling sites here in Taipei alone, and there were lines at a lot of them throughout the day because of what is at stake in this election. China had told the Taiwanese people, warning them in the run-up to this election, that this was a choice between peace and war, prosperity and decline, implying that the Democratic Progressive Party, which is openly loathed by Beijing's communist leaders, is the wrong choice in China's view to lead Taiwan for the next 4 years. And they've been making their point not only with bellicose statements, but also with actions, including just in recent days sending spy balloons over Taiwan, unveiling imagery of their third most advanced aircraft carrier, one of the most advanced in the world, that experts say, once it completes sea trials, would play a vital role in any potential invasion of Taiwan, which China has never ruled out, as they say that they will eventually reabsorb this island as part of their territory, even though the communist rulers in Beijing have never actually controlled it. And of course, there's always the looming threat. But people here, the supporters of the Democratic Progressive Party, say that's exactly why they've decided to give the DPP 4 more years in Taiwan, because they believe that the party's strategy of a close alignment with the United States, prioritizing military, diplomatic, and economic ties with the U.S. Is the way to protect Taiwan from a Chinese attack, as opposed to the opposition's argument that, in fact, mending fences with China, rebuilding that relationship, and recalibrating the U.S. relationship would have been the way to dial down the temperature and avoid a cross-strait conflict. But Taiwan has made its decision, a third historic consecutive presidential term for the ruling party, the DPP.
TheAdvocateChannel.com looks at the world through the lens of equality and inclusion. Subscribe, like, and share now. AC 24/7's Top Story Countdown continues with our producer's pick for number 3.
This rally in the center of Tel Aviv, one of the biggest for a while, 100 days of hell, it's called. An estimated 120,000 people attended in the early part of Saturday evening. It's expected to go on for about 24 hours, and it really is to draw attention to all those more than 100 hostages still being held inside of Gaza, to try to put pressure on the government not to let the idea of the hostages sort of slip behind the priorities of the military campaign. And this is what people were out doing. There was music, there was speeches. People at some points, not part of the main rally, but another point, tried to stop cars on the central highway to again make that point that the government needs to address the issues of getting the hostages back safely. Also 100 days, we've heard a report from Martin Griffiths, the top UN emergency humanitarian coordinator, talking about the situation in Gaza. 1.9 million people displaced, 85% of the population. But some of the other things that he talked about in this report were very damning. He said UN workers in the north of Gaza had seen bodies at the side of the road. They'd seen people there on the edge of starvation. There's been another UN group has put out a report and said whole neighborhoods of housing are missing. There are no homes for people to go back to. And Griffith's report, interestingly and perhaps presciently, focused on Rafah in the south, that area right at the southern end of the Gaza Strip, where the IDF ground offensive has not reached yet. And he said normally there's a population around there of about 280,000 people. And he said right now there's an additional 1 million displaced people there. And he said, look, if the military operations start there, where people are already short of food, short of water, multiple families living in tiny accommodation there, sharing homes, if there is a military offensive there, he said this will cause a real potential for a push of people desperate to get through Gaza's border, desperate to get into neighboring countries. And he actually said in his report as well that some countries have already offered to take some of the citizens of Gaza, and he stressed vitally important that if that were to happen, they have the absolute right to return, but very clearly focusing concerns on that southern portion of Gaza, because that's the fear, the density of the displaced population. The military operations there could have even further and more dire consequences than we're seeing right now. And a point from Prime Minister Netanyahu on his big speech Saturday evening, and this gets to the point that Secretary Blinken made when he was in the region, that there would be a UN team that would come and investigate when could displaced people get back to their homes in the north. And the Prime Minister said they won't be able to go back to the north until all the military operations are over.
Like the Advocate channel on Facebook for the best way to get updated stories that advocate for equality, justice, our rights, and more. AC 24/7 continues with today's top 2 pick.
Even the coldest caucus in memory couldn't freeze the enthusiasm Iowa Republicans have for former President Donald Trump.
I just want to thank you all. This is a very special night, and the big night is going to be in November when we take back our country.
The 45th president claiming a landslide victory in the Hawkeye state, setting his sights on the general election. He encouraged his opponents to get out of the race and on board with him.
It's just so important, and I want to make that a very big part of our message. We're going to come together. It's going to happen soon, too.
The former president topping 50% of the vote in Iowa, cementing his position as frontrunner. But the margin between second and third place was tight. Florida Governor Ron DeSantis outpacing former UN Ambassador Nikki Haley by a slim lead. Both claiming momentum and both vowing they're the only candidates to take on Trump and President Joe Biden.
We have a lot of work to do, but I can tell you this, as the next president of the United States, I am going to get the job done for this country.
I can safely say, tonight, Iowa made this Republican primary a 2-person race.
As the primary season kicks off, the stakes couldn't be higher, even if the temperatures are at an all-time low. In Des Moines, Iowa, I'm Ivan Rodriguez reporting.
Follow the Advocate channel on Twitter and Instagram to stay updated on stories that matter every day. We're now at our number 1 story of the day. Take a look.
It's Bills Mafia, this is what we do.
From New York to Dallas, Americans are dealing with severe winter weather. Now, Buffalo Bills fans are becoming a symbol of perseverance. Their team is advancing in the playoffs in part thanks to community members who shoveled out Highmark Stadium.
You're able to kind of, dance around and keep warm.
Buffalo residents are experts in snow removal, but near Dallas, this is a rare sight. And that's not the only southern city reeling from powerful winter storms. These are just a few of the school districts canceling class today.
Ready, 1, 2, 3.
Although these kids in Alabama don't seem to mind.
It's cold, but it's really fun to sled and with my family.
In Memphis, the Peabody Hotel has brought its famous marching ducks indoors.
Marching through the snow.
Tennessee officials are asking people not to travel, but they probably didn't consider this.
Hey, how's it going?
Yeah, how are you?
All right.
Across the U.S., bitter cold is another concern. Forecasters predict more than 200 new record lows through today. Some folks in Philadelphia are finding an upside to that.
We've had so much salt from previous years that we're thrilled to get to put on the shelf and hopefully move some of it.
I've had salt for the past 4 years and I haven't been using any salt, so we've been lucky.
I'm Amy Kiley reporting.
Thanks for watching the Advocate channel's top stories. We're on Facebook, Twitter, TikTok, and YouTube. Follow, like, and share, or check out advocatechannel.com for even more stories that advocate for you.